Right. 5 September 2020, and I'm joined by Ronald Makusha from Young Lead, and you are the Secretary General of Young Lead. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. How are you, Mr. Gambakwe?
Fantastic. And today, you said you want to speak in own personal capacity. So
Yes,
we're going to be talking about the land issue, and I'm going to give you the floor. What is it that you want us to speak about?
Yeah, Mr. Gambakwe, everyone is aware of the decision which is being made by the president and the government of Zimbabwe. And it's quite not clear what is really going on. Because at first, it was like compensation of the former white farmers. And right now, there's now those who are on BIPA being given back land. And we actually do not know who is on BIPA, who is being compensated. Actually, it's not in the public domain. This information is not in the public domain. And there were no consultations with the people, with the pressure groups, with all representative bodies. So I think this thing is just political. This thing is just is being used for political mileage, not for the benefit of our generation. If we look the people who are propelling this issue of land, there are people without a future. There are people who are now old, who should be retired by now. And our generation is not represented well. And I don't see us benefiting in either way, because we have not benefited from this land since 2000. We have only suffered through sanctions, and we are now continuing to suffer. We are landless. We have been on a waiting list for quite so long. And I don't see our future being bright.
Okay, so let's break down the issues. Are you concerned about compensation of the white farmers, or are you concerned about having access to land?
Both. Let's start with compensation, Mr. Gambakwe. I don't know how they reached the 3.5 billion. These are, let's say, that these are not more than 5,000 farmers. And they are being compensated 3.5 billion. Let's take a look to Tokwe Mkosi victims. They were compensated peanuts. They got nothing, almost nothing. These are indigenous people. And yet, they were not compensated well. And we are now talking about 3.5 billion being given to white farmers. These, if we look from our history, how they got to the farms, they drove our forefathers from these farms. They drove them to region 4-5, and they were not compensated, our forefathers. Their cattle were looted, their goats were looted, their sheep were looted, everything, their livestock were, they were left with nothing. They were used in farms through cheap labor, and they were not paid. If you look, some of them, they failed to get back to their original homes after working in farms. So how can we start talking about compensating white farmers without even talking to each and every person, each and every stakeholder in Zimbabwe? Zimbabwe is not a country of a few people. Zimbabwe is a country of everyone. We need to include each and every person. If we look the 2013 constitution, it wasn't written very well. It wasn't written. It was written by two parties, MDC and ZANU-PF, and these two political parties were not representing everyone. So this land, this compensation issue, it was rigged in the first place. So I don't know how they reached 3.5 billion, but they cannot argue saying we are fulfilling the constitution, we are just following the constitution. They are not following the constitution. They are just doing nothing. Because if we look this constitution, political parties, politicians, Morgan Tsvangirai, Robert Mugabe, they sent their teams to campaign for this constitution, saying, vote yes for this constitution. We asked the questions that time. I was in the rural area. I asked this question: how am I going to vote for a constitution, this draft constitution? I have never seen this document. How can I vote yes for a document which I don't know? What is the law of contract or whatever? Because we were entering into a contract saying we agree to this. So this constitution, I view it as null and void. So we need to sit down as Zimbabweans, number one, agree on what we want, the way forward for Zimbabwe in terms of land, in terms of compensating whoever who might be compensated. I think that's my view on that issue.
Okay, so I want us to clarify our intention. Are we saying it's wrong to compensate the white farmers and that should not be done? Or are we saying compensation must happen fairly to other groups?
Compensation must be done, Mr. Gambakwe, on the basis that we are not talking about white farmers. We are talking about every Zimbabwean. Every Zimbabwean who was affected either way must be compensated. And we have to sit down and talk about this thing. We know the Murambachina, we know the Tokwem courses, we know the Gukura Wundi, we know this land reform program, this fast track land reform program. We need to sit down and say, guys, these events affected us. And we need to find solutions to them. Sit down and agree on certain terms, not to have one group of politicians who are just politicking and seeking votes to come and say, we are compensating so and so this amount. And I don't know, Mr. Gambakwe, how they're doing it, but it's not fair.
Okay. Is there a record of which people were affected? For example, in Murambachina or during the Tokwem course move, people were moved?
Yeah, there are records, Mr. Gambakwe. People do have records. Let's talk about Murambachina. After Murambachina, let's go to this suburb, White Cliff, just after Kwazan extension. I grew up in that area. I did my primary in Kwazana, and I was living in that area before I moved to my rural area. So after Murambachina, government said everyone who was affected, come and register. We are going to build you houses. If you look on the right side of White Cliff, if you approach, there's a safe station. I think it's Puma, the last safe station. There's on the right side, there's a location which was built by government. They built some houses there, and those houses were supposed to be given to people who were on the other side of that White Cliff farm. And our fathers, our parents went and registered through local government, and corruption happened. Civil servants were put in there. And I don't know how they did that. But initially, that program was supposed to benefit the people who were affected by Murambachina. The records are there. Years later, they decided to say, guys, you were affected here. We are now repegging. Come and re-register and pay $250 for small stands and pay $500 for bigger stands. People went there and the records were there. You just go present your ID and you'll be given a lease. And people were given lease agreements. This is the problem. They are living there with lease agreements, but they are not allowed to develop. You see, they've been living there for quite some time now. They are not allowed to develop anything. So this is the problem. Your own people, you are treating them like foreign people. And so this thing shows that there is no sincerity in our government. These are the issues the government should address first, so that they gain trust from the people. If we look at the Tokwem Kosi issue, there are records because each and every headman or village head, he had the records of his people. The people who were affected are known. Others were given 1 hectare in the rural areas. Imagine, Mr. Gambakwe, you have a family, you have children, let's say you have 5 sons, and you are given a hectare in the rural area. You have your cattle. How are you going to build houses, proper houses, or do farming, do everything on 1 hectare? This is not fair. This is something we are talking about, Mr. Gambakwe, something which is there. These guys were given 1 hectare, and the government is talking about compensating white farmers. This is not fair, Mr. Gambakwe.
Okay, so how would it work? Where would we start? Because obviously the government has to deal with one group separately. What do you have in mind? How should this process work?
What I have in mind, Mr. Gambakwe, is that the government should be sincere, number one. They should hold seminars and invite young people, invite everyone. Because if we look at people who are representing us, there are people who are known politically, who are connected politically, but they don't have in mind what we need as citizens. They are just representing their political interest, not representing the social interest or the economic interest of everyone in Zimbabwe. So we need to sit down and say, we are dealing with issue of Mrambachina. Can those who were affected register? Let us have seminars. Let us sit down and talk about this issue. Also, this issue of land reform program, they need to do so again. Come, let's sit. Citizens also who will be affected, because after compensating, after giving back land, black indigenous people are going to be affected. So we need to say, every stakeholder, you need to come on the table. Let's sit, let's talk about this and agree. Where are we going to start from and where are we going to end? Let's put guidelines in which we all agree, not so that we avoid the GNU problem, which only benefited politicians. And after the GNU ended, we reverted back to the problem. And you have seen the economy now is in shambles. And during GNU, it seemed to be, it was like we're starting to work. But after GNU, it creaked. Why? There was no inclusivity. So I think we need to include each and every stakeholder which is interested. We have never been invited on this issue of land. And we are supposed to be invited. We should take part and give our contributions. The president should sit with us because we are the future. And we need to tell the president directly what we think. We don't need any politician to represent us. Why? These MPs, if I let me say this, from my constituency, the MP there will never for one day go and present what we need or our grievances, because he is just cruel, that man. So I believe we just need to sit down, present what we need to the president direct, present to the government direct, without fear, without favor, speaking our mind, so that when the government is making its decisions, they will have to consider our point of view, because they will do this today, Mr. Gambako. The problem is that the day we will get in government, we are going to reverse some of the decisions they are making right now. So this is the problem. We need to agree to avoid future reversals of such agreements.
Okay, so I'm trying to look for a practical step-by-step which the government can implement. Firstly, you said the government must be sincere, and then they must hold workshops.
Yes.
is Parliament not the right place to start? Because I understand this process has to go through Parliament.
Parliament is the right place to start only if the parliamentarians were representing the people. The parliamentarians are not representing the people, Mr. Gambakwe. The parliamentarians proved that when they allowed themselves to take those fortuners during the time Zimbabweans are struggling. That's the first point we should take note of. The parliamentarians are not going in parliament to represent our needs or our grievances. They are going there to fight, to get allowances, and they take this issue as a job. So this is the problem. So I believe our parliament is not sincere. Our parliament is not representing us, because they go there to fight. They go there just to politic. So we need to sit down as citizens, address some issues. But if we look how these people were elected into parliament, they were not elected freely. They were not elected fairly. So they are not representing our grievances as young people. Because if you look the proportion of young people in parliament, it does not tally with the people, the young people in the country. There's no proper representation of young people in parliament. So there's never going to be proper representation of our needs as the future leaders of this country.
Okay, so if the parliament is not the right platform, what structure should be used and who should be in charge of this process of holding workshops?
Well, since the president is the one presiding over the country, he should be in charge of this issue, because he is the last person who will make every decision. He is the decision maker in this country. He can revoke a parliamentary decision. He can uphold the parliamentary decision, a parliamentary decision. He is the last person to deal with here. We are saying to the president, President, we need to sit with you, not with anyone else. We need President Mnangagwa in the same room so that we tell him how we feel, what we want, and what we think is the way forward. We allow him to ask us questions, and we make our presentations. Why am I saying this, Mr. Gambakwe? Our presentations are not being filed with the president. We put through various presentations, but politicians do have tendency of sitting on top of those presentations, because they just think if your ideas are known, you threaten their positions. And so this is what I am suggesting. We need to register each and every constituency. People need to find representatives who go to represent their needs, other than the MP or the ZANU-PF people or the MDC people. The constituencies should have representatives. So this is going to put everyone together, the whole country together, and we are going to say we have from the people. We have village heads, we have chiefs, we have councillors, but all these groups are captured one way or the other. So we need citizens now need to have their own groups. In each and every constituency, they form their own groups. These groups will come present the problems to the president, sit down with the president, talk to the president in presence of the cabinet, the MPs and everyone, so that the weaknesses of the MPs, the cruelty of the MPs will be exposed.
Okay, but are we blaming the MPs for this situation? Because the MPs were not involved in these decisions.
They were not involved. We might say so, but they are contributing to our dilemma. Why? They are not coming to talk to us in time. They are not giving us feedback. They were aware of these shenanigans. They were aware of these plots, but they were not open to us. They just kept quiet, and they pretended as if everything was well. And this is what we are saying, Mr. Gambakwe. It's problematic because we have people who are not honest. They know something, they just keep quiet. They pretend nothing is happening. And after a short while, everyone is amused by sudden decisions being made. And we say, why? Why now? Why were we not aware of such decisions all along? So they might argue that this thing was in the Constitution. Why was you not talking about it? We have been talking about this, Mr. Gambakwe. It's just that we were not being heard because we were talking this through our representatives, through our MPs, saying, go and talk to the president. We need these laws to be removed. These draconian laws to be removed. We cannot compensate for improvements for any person, because our forefathers were not compensated. So the MPs never relayed this message. So how can we trust them today if they failed to relay this message we were giving them all the while?
Okay, so let's go back step by step. We said the government must be sincere. They should run workshops with affected people, other groups. And the president should be responsible for these workshops directly, and cabinet. What is the outcome of these workshops?
Right. The outcome, Mr. Gambakwe, will truly show what Zimbabwe needs right now. Because we are just hearing what a few people, some of them who are being paid, want us to hear, not the truth. You see, if these workshops are held, people will tell the truth. People will come out confidently and say some things which will shock the world. We have been silenced for too long now. And we need to have our voices starting to be heard in Zimbabwe. And the outcome of these workshops, we are going to see no compensation of anyone who colonized Zimbabwe and benefited through colonialism, because there are some agreements which were breached, like the Lancaster House was breached itself, not by us, but by Britain. So after Britain breached the Lancaster House agreement, we cannot go and say we are now compensating. Who are we compensating? The people who enacted this compensation issue into the Constitution, they sneaked this issue into the Constitution. These are the likes of Alex Magaisa, who have been in England for quite so long, and he has been sponsored by England for a very long time now. So we were not given a chance to make our contributions to that Constitution. We were not given a chance to review that Constitution. We were not given a fair chance to reject that Constitution. So after these consultations, you are going to see that this Constitution is going to be suspended. If we hold this workshop, this Constitution is going to be totally suspended, and we are going to start step by step correcting this Constitution, making sure that the needs, the wants, and the grievances of Zimbabwean people are included. The interests of Zimbabwean people are protected, and we are going to have a fresh start. We are going to have even free and fair elections in Zimbabwe, because this is the starting point. having workshops will expose a lot of corruption, a lot of misgivings, a lot of insincerity by the government. And this will be the start, because young people will be involved, young people will be heard for the first time. Because if you look, Mr. Gambagwe, there are people who claim to be representing young people. They'll come and say, I am from this young organization, I am representing people. They'll form an organization and say, I am representing young people. They'll make noise, they'll get arrested, they'll be beaten. The world will be crying, saying, you are abusing human rights, you are doing what, you are doing what. But these guys, they are doing this not from our needs or grievances. They are doing this for their pockets. So if you look, they don't represent us, these guys. They don't come here to talk what we need. They talk what they want and what their masters want. So if we sit down with the president and if we sit down with all stakeholders, we will be talking the truth. We will be exposing each and everything, Mr. Gambakwe, so that we start on a fresh page, which is based on honesty, which is based on the truth and nothing but the truth.
Okay, so I think we have basically covered what needs to happen in the outcome, which is the suspension of the constitution. Do you think then the issues that we're dealing with are to do with the white farmer compensation or with wider issues? Is the compensation of white farmers the real issue?
Mr. Gambagwe, this is a real issue, because 3.5 billion can sustain Zimbabwe for almost more than 6 months. So you cannot tell me that you value white commercial farmers more than Zimbabweans. President Mnangagwa, what President Mnangagwa is doing, he is not compensating white farmers from his heart. They are compensating white farmers so as to gain favor in the eyes of the Western world, so that he can get legitimacy from Britain. Because there are arrangements, Mr. Gambakwe, for Britain to assist Zimbabwe with its currency, so that the British pound and the Zimbabwean dollar can work hand in hand. So this agreement can only be concluded after there is a clear step towards compensating white farmers. There is a clear step towards restoration of title to former commercial farmers. So this is an issue. This issue is tricky, Mr. Gambakwe. They are not telling us the truth surrounding this issue of land. Because we started to hear about this issue of compensating white farmers long ago. So now we talked about it on Twitter, we talked about it in our spheres, but we are starting to see the rumors are now starting to come true. So if there is no sincerity from President Mnangagwa in paying these former white farmers, there's no sincerity in President Mnangagwa in making Zimbabwe work. Because President Mnangagwa does not believe in us. President Mnangagwa thinks we are not capable of doing farming. President Mnangagwa thinks that we are not capable of producing in Zimbabwe. But he is just running away from the facts. Number one, people who benefited from this land issue, people with farms, are politicians. Politicians are good in terms of politicking. They are not good farmers. Instead of giving farmers access to land, President Mnangagwa has decided to compensate white farmers so as to gain favor and political mileage, so that he can reach 2023 and probably 2028 and 2030. Secondly, President Mnangagwa has decided to restore title so as to make white people start to produce. But we are going to be the laborers in those farms. Our people, our black people, are going to be managers in those farms. What does that mean? This just means these white people are just going to take charge of land, but we are going to be producing there, we are going to be working there, earning peanuts, earning nothing, and they will be making millions out of that. So this is not sincere, Mr. Gambakwe. And this issue of land is key, because if you look in Zidera, that's the main issue. The main issue is on land. So we need to clear this issue on land. We need to correct this perception on land that we are not capable of producing. We need to give young people a chance. We are getting young people offering, saying, I am capable. I am capable. Give me a chance. We have been on waiting list for a very long time now. There are no farms for us. We suggested that they should resize these farms so that people with lesser capital can be able to go into the farms, do farming, and start to produce. Because Zimbabwe can only be sustainable when we are doing farming. That's the only way forward. Farming, agriculture is what we need as Zimbabweans, which means this is the critical point, this is the key point, and if we correct this land issue, if we correct this land question, it is going to correct the issues surrounding Zidera. It is going to correct the issues surrounding each and every other sanctions on Zimbabwe, because they were put on Zimbabwe after taking our land, not for human rights. Each and every, there's no country respecting human rights in the world. So why is Zimbabwe only suffering for under sanctions? It's because of land. So this is the issue concerning connected to the compensation, the issue connected to the restoration of title. This is the issue affecting Zimbabwe. This is the issue affecting almost SADC, because Zimbabwe is much strategic in the SADC region. So if we correct this issue, Mr. Gambakwe, you are going to see that everything is going to start to move. Because if everyone's stomach is full, aid is going to disappear. And when aid disappears, we are going to see sincerity in our people. They will start to elect people on competence, not for food handouts.
Okay, so I think we should end it here. And I want us to summarize, because I think there's a number of issues that are intermixed from what I can hear. Yes. Specifically, I did not get an answer of how compensating the white farmers can stop the government from dealing with the other issues. I also did not get the outcome of the workshops, because you say that we need to suspend the constitution. So I think there are various issues there that we need to clarify further, maybe in future episodes, because I can see that the workshops are good. That's getting information. But yes, you're also talking about bypassing parliament, bypassing councillors and MPs, and even chiefs. So I think we need to clarify the outcome of what we want to achieve. Are you able to quickly do that within a minute before we close?
Yeah, on the issue of workshops, Mr. Gambakwe, the outcome must be a new constitution of Zimbabwe, which will address each and every problem, which will land Zimbabwe into a real new dispensation, which will bring everyone together, which will unite every Zimbabwean, and which will remove stigmatization of people belonging to this political party and people belonging to this political party. So workshops are going to remove stigmatization of people. Workshops are going to bring unity. Workshops are going to bring clarity in terms of what is happening in Zimbabwe, what is the way forward for Zimbabwe. We are going to have a new constitution which will then make sure that there will be no corruption. The land issue will be addressed once and for all, and we will agree with the former white farmers on the way forward. They will have to accept our terms, and we will also have to look to say, these guys have been in Zimbabwe, they need land. So we are going to say, you can get 20 hectares, you can get 10 hectares, just like me. You see, Mr. Gambagwe? So this is the outcome we need. We need to say, Tom is going to get 10 hectares. I am going to get 10 hectares, fair and fine. White farmers were displaced. They don't have land. I don't have land. We are in the same predicament. We cannot deal with the white farmers only. We need to deal with the white farmer. We need to deal with a black person, a black farmer. So we give them land, everyone benefits from the land. This is what we are saying. So that we move forward and we start to build Zimbabwe. We cannot pay a few people compensation when our fathers who were working in the farms, there's no compensation for them. So this just shows that this issue is not genuine, this issue is not real, this issue is not practical, because you cannot pay the white farmers and fail to pay the workers who were working, who were paid nothing, who were exploited for quite long. And on the second issue, you said the second point, can you come again on that?
Okay. I said, you said the constitution must be suspended, and you explained why. And then you said we must bypass parliament, must bypass MPs, councillors and chiefs, and deal directly with Mnangagwa. So the outcome you're looking for here is a constitution, the constitution to be changed so that white farmers don't get compensated. But I'm saying, is it not possible to do both? To do the process of finding, oh, these are the people that needs to be compensated, while at the same time compensating the white farmers?
Yes, the problem, Mr. Gambakwe. This is 3.5 billion we are talking about. It's not 3.5 million. It's 3.5 billion. So if we say less than 5,000 people are getting 3.5 billion, what about millions, a million people, indigenous people who are affected in Zimbabwe? If we look, Murambachina, Gukura, Hundi, each and every, many people were affected, and they all need compensation. So this issue is so problematic to an extent that the government itself will even be stuck one day, because they will not be able to compensate everyone. So we need to sit down, we need to agree on certain terms, we need to agree on certain things, that instead of compensating white farmers, let us give them 10 hectares each or 20 hectares each, so that they can do their own little farming there. They can have somewhere to retire, somewhere as citizens, they can have somewhere where they can claim, this is my home, this is my area, this is my place. The same we'll do to other groups which are affected, and we find solutions to each and every group. Well, the bill will be 100 billion. If we are to include everyone who reach 100 billion or more than 100 billion, Mr. Gambakwe, which means this issue of starting compensating is just setting a bad precedence which the government cannot contain. So this issue is so complicated. This issue is so complex. We need to sit down. We need to talk. We need to agree on certain terms. Instead of compensating, they need to give these white farmers land, but not restoration of those farms. They just need to say, we are going to give you 20 hectares, 10 hectares. And we all agree on that. Every person should be given land, should have access to land, as enshrined in that constitution they claim to be valid.
Okay, so do we still need to change the constitution if we say that they're not going to be compensated? Or the result of the consultation is already what you are saying now?
Sometimes, Mr. Gambakwe, we can compromise. We can agree. We can pick specific chapters which need to be corrected, because not everything in the constitution is bad, but there are specific chapters which were put in there so as to put us in a corner. So those are the chapters we need to correct. We are just going to say, instead of compensating white farmers, we have agreed to say, we are giving you land. Since you are displaced, you are left with nowhere to stay. We are giving you land, because some of them, they ran away, they went to South Africa, Mozambique, everywhere. So we are just saying, come back. We are giving you this land, retire there. Let's move on. Let's build Zimbabwe together. We find other sections of the constitution which are not suitable for us, and we amend them. We correct them. We agree as a nation to a better constitution. And we move on, we move forward, we build a better Zimbabwe, which everyone will be happy, Mr. Gambagwe, which everyone will be equal, which everyone will have access to land, have access to business opportunities, access to justice and everything.
Okay. Mr. Ronald Makusha from Young Lead, and you said you're speaking in your personal capacity. So I would like you to come back next week with the official position of the party, so that we understand where you are in line with the party and where you're not in line with the party. But in summary, what you've said is that the government must be sincere. Mnangagwa must lead the process of workshops to get the views of the people, especially people who are affected in Mrambatsvina and in places like Tokwe Mukosi. And you've said that the constitution needs to be suspended, especially that part that says compensation must be given to white farmers. Instead, white farmers must get land, but not the land that they used to own. And they should come back and start from scratch like everyone else. Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
I just want to say, Zimbabweans, we need to depolarize. We need to be united, especially young people. We need to be united. We need to work together. We need to find solutions to our problems. We need to exclude the outside world from our problems. We need to deal with our problems internally first. Then we say to the world, this is what we have agreed as Zimbabweans, as young people, and we move forward. As young people, I just encourage each and every young people, a person, to start something, to start building your own life, start building your own career, and stop relying on politicians, stop relying on government. Let's put something which is more reasonable on the table, so that when we pressure the government, they reason together with us. If we just politic for nothing, we are not going to win this battle. We are going to be left with nothing. So we need to unite. We need to work together, just like the way other revolutionaries are working in like, if you look the likes of Julius Malema, they are not taking the government head on. They are trying to put onto the table reasonable things, so that at the end of the day, they take a step forward. And that's what we need in Zimbabwe.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ronald Makusha. I'll have you back again next week. Let's try to keep this conversation going so that people can understand where your party is in terms of policies. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gambagwe. Have a nice day.